And now, our story continues. But nevertheless, the most important thing was that they were making good progress in the challenge as they approached closer and closer to the hotel. However, not all is well and peaceful after Tracy's departure. Striding through the street, her 4-inch high heels and sweat clinging to her long-sleeved turtleneck sweater, Jessie was growing less comfortable with each passing minute. It boiled down to the point when finally it was too much for Jessie, where she muttered out a soft cuss word that she thought nobody would hear. Unfortunately, not even the faintest of sounds could escape from Yamaki's delicate ears. $1,000 deduction for talking, Musashi, said Yamaki. It came as a kind of shock to hear the host's voice all of a sudden, since most of the players had forgotten that the host was following behind the rest of the players in the challenge. Jerry frowned a little at the deduction, trying her best not to snarl at Jessie. The two girls didn't talk once in the game yet, but from what Jerry had been seeing so far, they weren't going to get along. Burying his head once more in the map, Gary made a confident turn in the left direction, but his partner Kenta looked uncertain with Gary's hasty decision. "Are you sure we turn left this street? I thought it was the next street," Kenta muttered uneasily, not having enough courage to look at Gary to his face. Without saying anything, Gary handed the map over to Kenta. The little boy then realized that he was about to give Gary the satisfaction of being right. "Oh, I see. You're right. My bad. Good for you." Ash rolled his eyes behind Gary's back. If Misty hadn't anxiously slapped her hand over his mouth, Ash probably would have told Gary to shove his attitude up a certain place by now. The mouth trainer would be the first to admit that he wasn't a Gary fan, and he probably wasn't alone in the category either. Gary bugs me. The way he talks down to people, like he's better than the rest of us, I mean, who does that? It's not normal behavior. He's not a good person at all, Ash explained, venting angrily to the cameras. Normally he wouldn't put so much energy to being negative towards a person, but he made a special exception for Gary. He pumped his fist into his hand. Ash Ketchum was getting real livid just talking and thinking about his Palatown rival. What is it with him anyway? Every time he opens his mouth, I want to tell the loser to shut up. Do us all a favor. Those were all the words he said in the confessional, but for the sake of the challenge, Ash kept his opinions to himself. Unlike his perception of Gary, Ash prided himself in being a true team player. The ambitious trainer from Palatown hadn't intentionally signed up for the game at first. He had mistaken the application form to be the entry for yet another Pokemon battling tournament. But when he found out that he actually signed up to play the mole, he knew the offer was too good to back down. In fact, it was such a decent proposal that he reluctantly left the responsibilities of Pikachu and his other Pokemon to Brock in order to participate in this game. Winning was one major motivation for Ash to leave the Pokemon world for a while to play the game. He loved the sheer victory of pummeling his opponents to bits. He loved the bragging rights to name-drop his successes to random acquaintances he met throughout his journey. But at the end, it all boiled down to one reason. Ash Ketchum was playing to outlast Gary Oak. At last, they finally arrived at the hotel. The players shuffled into the hotel, breathing in the fresh air of victory. It took them 35 minutes to arrive at their destination, but they successfully completed their challenge by arriving at the Hilton Hotel on time. We're here! We're here! Kenta shouted happily. Jessie was just glad that they didn't have to do any more walking. Yay! We won our first challenge! Jerry laughed, engaging everybody in a cheer. $1,000 deduction to jury for speaking before the challenge is over, said Yamaki unexpectedly. What? In shock, Jerry turned to her fellow players with a puzzled face. She didn't understand about the deduction. Weren't they finished with the challenge? The challenge isn't over yet, said Gary in a slightly irritated voice. The horrid monstrosity that is Tracy isn't here yet, and all 10 of us need to be here in order to win. Damn it, muttered Matt. It was one of the few curse words that he wished he could immediately retract. Yamaki caught it immediately. That will amount to another deduction, another $1,000 out of the pot. 5 minutes passed, then another 5. The players wandered anxiously around the hotel, waiting impatiently for Tracy to enter through the door any minute now. After losing $3,000 in penalties, the players learned their first lessons and obediently kept their mouths shut. But Tracy never showed up from wherever he went. As the clock quickly ticked to its last few minutes, it seemed like a loss on their first challenge was inevitable. Although words couldn't be expressed, what the players were feeling was unanimous. Betrayed, furious, and exhausted, there was only one person in their minds that could be blamed for the entire loss. He abandoned the group for an exemption, and he didn't come back on time, just as Kenta had predicted. Tracy Sketchit didn't even know that he was already labeled as the most hated player of the game. He didn't show up at the door until 20 minutes after the challenge was lost. Wearing a satisfied smile on his face, he soon realized that he was the only person in the room that was smiling. But he ignored their long faces, for nothing could bring the Pokemon Watcher's spirits down today. There it was, in his hand, a green card that contained the word exemption on it. His promise was fulfilled. Tracy wouldn't be the first person executed from the game. "Congratulations to Kenji for obtaining the exemption at our mysterious location," said Yumaki, patting Tracy on the back. The Pokemon Watcher grinned bashfully to his achievement, but unfortunately he did not arrive at the hotel on time, so therefore the challenge is lost. Also, the group will be deducted $3,000 as a penalty for talking. Pot 2000. Tracy took a sideways glance at the players that he abandoned an hour ago, and it was shocking to him that the welcoming faces he saw an hour ago were now changed into deathly glares and unhappy frowns. Some, like Matt and Jesse, looked like they were ready to throw a few punches in his smiling face. But Tracy knew that he was the only person who would definitely be in the next round, and for that, he was happy. "Screw them. I don't care what they think," Tracy said to the cameras, emphasizing his first word. He leant back in his chair, fiddling with his chubby little fingers playfully. "They could hate me all they want, but somebody's getting executed, and it isn't going to be me. Instead of focusing their anger on me, they should actually worry about staying in the game first. Ha!" Tracy chuckled mockingly. He knew Professor Oak would be proud. "If any of them think I am the mole after this challenge, then I'm killing two birds with one stone. Let them get delusional in the game. Ha!" Okay, guys. Thank you for listening, and join me next time for challenge number 2. Later.